What's up, everybody? Joe Brown here. This is the Heresy Financial Show, and right now a major food crisis is brewing. We are seeing signs of a global food catastrophe. Shortages everywhere, all across the world, that may last a very long time. We are starting to see the signs of these things happening very, very soon. And depending on where you live, it might be happening to you as we speak. So in this video, we are going to be talking about number one, what is actually going on? What is causing the food shortage and the food crisis right now? And then number two, what you can actually do to prepare, because it's all well and dandy to know that, hey, we're going to have a shortage of food here soon, but it is more important to know, in light of that, what can I actually do to make sure that I and my family don't go hungry? Ready? Let's dive in. All right, everybody, 1 year ago, I started talking about this, and I think I was probably one of the first ones to start talking about this, that the rich were starting to swallow up farmland. There's a reason for this. Number one, we've got a massive trade deficit, meaning we print a lot of money, send that money overseas, and we get a lot of stuff in return. But one thing we don't do that for is food. That's one of the things the United States makes a lot of. We're actually the biggest food exporter in the world. And so rich people know that as money gets printed, things get more expensive. And as things get more expensive, people can't afford things. And therefore, people reduce the amount of luxuries that they buy, go basic needs instead. The most basic need is food. And that's why the farmers and people who own some animals and some plants in the collapse of the Weimar Republic, they were the landowners, they were the farmers, they were the ones who got rich, they were the ones who got wealthy, they paid off all their debt because they made stuff that could continue to produce. They had animals that continued to lay eggs and make milk and make food. They were the ones that got rich because they were the only ones producing something that everybody still had to get no matter how destitute they were. So a year ago, I made a video about this. That's why rich people are buying up farmland, because in the midst of inflation and potentially hyperinflation, food becomes more and more valuable. 2 months ago, I made another video about the coming food crisis, and right about that time, we started seeing major news outlets start to say, hey, we could be in for some major food crisis right around the corner. One of those is The Economist here. We can see that The Economist is now talking about the coming food crisis, blaming Vladimir Putin, saying that he will destroy the lives of people all around the world because of the invasion of Ukraine. Why is that? Because Ukraine exports grain and seed oils. Between Ukraine and Russia, that accounts for most of the world's wheat, and much of the world relies on wheat for basic sustenance in order to survive. Many countries import most of their wheat from just those two countries. And so Russia going in has a very dangerous impact on the global wheat supply. Same thing with seed oils. Seed oils are used as cooking oils all around the world. Guess what? They're poison. So wheat in America, especially because of Roundup and Monsanto glyphosate, it is poison. So these are not necessarily bad things for the health of the world, other than the fact if it leads to actual starvation, then of course that's bad for the health of the world. But for now, if you're in America, you've got other choices to get off wheat, get off seed oils. Take this as a silver lining. Now, if we move on to NPR, we can see NPR recently started talking about, with food prices climbing, the UN is now warning of crippling global shortages. The UN is now warning of crippling global food shortages. Not only are they blaming the war in Ukraine, they are also blaming climate change and rising inflation. When the money supply goes up and then prices start to go up as a result, people resort to buying what they need. They stop buying what they want. Food is one of those things. And as food gets more scarce because of things like wars and because of things like supply chain issues, we are going to see more and more people try and get more food because food is scarce, so might as well get a little bit more just in case to make myself more robust. But that means not only do we have prices going up because of the other issues, prices are going up because real demand for food has been increasing. So with real demand for food increasing, that puts even more strain, leads to a little bit of a self-reinforcing cycle. Also contributing to this is the fact that with luxury spending down, things like over the last couple of years, restaurant spending has been down as well. Many restaurants had to shut down permanently because of all of the legislated lockdowns. And so those are different supply chains. We had a lot of food going there, different farms, different supply chains. All of that shuts down, but these people still have to eat. And so a lot of people are buying food now in ways that they didn't used to buy, putting more strain and stress on the systems that produced the food for at-home food that they used to be getting from restaurant food. It was the same issue with toilet paper in the beginning. If you remember, the toilet paper was out. That wasn't because people were hoarding toilet paper. That was a complete misdirection there. That wasn't what was happening. Normally, people go to work all day and use the bathroom at work once or twice a day. When all the lockdowns happened, everybody was using the bathroom at home. They're different products. Toilet paper, yes, you use it for the same function, but the creators, the factories that produce at work toilet paper, the supply chains that deliver that toilet paper to office buildings, they're 100% different products. And there was no way to get that toilet paper to the grocery stores for individual use and individual sale. And so there was a spike in demand for regular toilet paper because nobody was using that at-work toilet paper anymore. They had to use it at home. And so there wasn't the factories and the supply chains and the companies that made at-home toilet paper weren't used to all of that demand. They didn't usually have to meet that amount of demand. Same thing's going on with food right now. Okay, so back to food. What is the UN saying? The IMF managing director said that the anxiety about access to food at a reasonable price globally is hitting the roof, especially as food prices continue to go up. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned of the specter of a global food shortage in coming months. Just over the last 2 years, the number of severely food insecure people has doubled. It was at 135 million people pre-pandemic, up to 276 million people today. Over 500,000 people are experiencing famine conditions, an increase of more than 500% since 2016. All over the world, in Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, the number of people facing extreme hunger has more than doubled, from 10 million to 23 million. So we've talked about one element driving this, which is the food scarcity and the increased demand. That is just a small part. One of the biggest drivers right now is fertilizer. On this article from National Geographic, they're talking about how fertilizer supplies continue to dwindle. The fertilizer problem is the key driver in the current food shortages and will be the key driver in these food shortages and this food crisis getting much worse. According to Vaclav Smil, who is an amazing researcher, he's written tons of good books on things like energy and civilization. Fantastic book. I highly recommend it. Says that 2/5 of humanity, more than 3 billion people, are alive because of nitrogen fertilizer. Alive, not thriving, just alive because of nitrogen fertilizer. This chemical fertilizer tripled global grain production, but now it is in short supply, threatening to shut down the total global food production. So, you might ask, why is fertilizer in short supply right now? Well, let's trace it back. You need nitrogen in order to make fertilizer. How do you get nitrogen? Guess what you need to make nitrogen? Natural gas. Guess what the world is scrambling for right now? Natural gas. Guess what countries decided to shut down clean energy production and move to fossil fuels because wind and solar are unstable? Countries like Germany that shut down their nuclear clean energy production, moved to unstable energy, wind and solar, and now are completely reliant on oil and gas from Russia. That's natural gas that now cannot be used to make fertilizer. It's being diverted just to keep the lights on. And certain makers of fertilizers like Yara are also saying that the world faces an extreme food supply shock. And not only because of these stupid energy decisions that are being made over the past couple of decades that have led to the current amount of natural gas being diverted away from something that can create food to just keeping the lights on when that was unnecessary, but also because of the sanctions. CEO of Yara is saying that the direct impact of Russian sanctions, it has removed at least 15% of the global fertilizer supply, and the indirect impact is even more severe because of supply chain disruptions and the impact of gas price rises. We're seeing millions of tons of corn and grains stuck in ports because of the war. Now, devil's advocate here for anybody who lives in the United States. The United States is a major food exporter. In fact, the United States is the largest food exporter in the world. And if the rest of the world is any example, as this food crisis has been unfolding, the rest of the world has started to lock down their exports. When things get scarce, you keep what you have and you use that instead of selling it and going and trying to buy something from someone else that you actually can't buy. You just keep what you have. Many countries have done that. The United States could also do that as well. The United States exports soybeans, corn, nuts, wheat, pork, poultry, oils, beef, cereal grains, dairy products, rice, and many more. So absolutely, there could be some more food security within the United States versus other countries that import most of their food. However, even in North America, the main talk right now is about fertilizers, specifically the price and availability. Fertilizer prices are cracking up the production side of agriculture. There are many regions where farmers either can't afford fertilizer or the fertilizers are not available. So no matter where you live, you're either starting to experience the food crisis or you have a big danger of starting to experience it soon. So what can be done? What are some practical things to actually do about this? Well, number one, you get robust and then you can bet on the upside. So get robust against collapse, protect yourself from failing, get fire insurance first. Once you've covered the downside, then you can start to benefit from the upside. So what is the downside? Well, obviously it's going hungry. So number one, get yourself some emergency food. If the last 2.5 years has shown anybody anything, it's that the preppers were right? Nobody should ever make fun of preppers ever again. So get yourself some emergency food. I've got emergency essentials linked in the description below. Get some dehydrated meat, some dehydrated food that is light. You can store it somewhere. It'll last 15, 20, 25 years. That way, if you have to go to the grocery store and you realize they're all out of chicken, they're all out of beef, they're all out of pork, you don't care. You go home, you go into your own grocery store in your closet and heat up some dehydrated beef. You add some water to it and you have dinner tonight for your family. You don't have to go hungry. Number two, you can do very small things like you can plant fruit trees in your backyard if you have enough space. You can make a little garden. It's not going to be something that you're going to be completely able to survive off of, but it could help if you've got a couple strawberries, a couple bell peppers, you've got an apple tree, you've got a citrus tree. It's not gonna keep you alive forever, but it can definitely help. And even those plants were probably bad examples. You could probably tell that I'm not planting those plants myself. Probably things like potatoes would have a greater amount of food yield for the amount of work that you have to put in. And so there are other options available. If you don't actually want to go become a farmer and get dirt under your fingernails, there are some other options. And so get robust against collapse. Make sure that you have a source of food that is not relying on the global supply chains, that's not reliant on fertilizer availability for the massive farm that delivers food to your grocery store. Make sure you have enough food to be able to survive for as long as you think might be necessary or to supplement what you can get if we get food price controls and rations. The next thing you can do is make sure that you don't have to buy the things that are terrible for you. Get unaddicted to wheat. Get unaddicted to sugar, processed sugar. Get unaddicted to seed oils. These are all very addicting and they're poisonous. Make sure you can get off of those things beforehand so you can get your body healthy to survive, get on the right track here, and then you don't have to worry about the wheat shortages. You don't have to worry about the soybean shortages. You don't have to worry about the processed food shortages because you're not eating those things anymore. Next thing you can do, make some local relationships with your local farmers. Go to a farmer's market, make some friends, make some relationships with local farms, whether it's animals or plants near you. And that way, maybe you can invest. Maybe you can become a part owner. Maybe they're looking to bring on some new investment to expand. Make some friends. That way, if things go down, you know somebody who produces food. It's a key, very valuable relationship to have. Even if you're only using that to stock up your freezer, so you've got a couple of months worth of food in your freezer, that's still worth it. So that is all covering your downside. Make sure you cover the downside. No matter what happens, you won't go hungry. Next Now that you're robust, you can bet on the upside. You can try and make money off of this, or at least break even. If food prices just go up, maybe we don't have shortages, but they keep on going through the roof, you can make money alongside of it. Number one, there are plenty of agriculture ETFs. Take a look at this list from etfdatabase.org, etfdb.com. Take a look at this list from etfdb.com, ETF database. We can see this is a list of agricultural ETFs. So this number one here, it's a huge one. DBA, it's an agriculture fund. Broad agriculture, massive $2.3 billion assets under management here. Huge volumes, so you're not going to ruin the market by investing some money in here. You're not going to blow it up. Some of these smaller ones here have a very, very small market cap, and so you might have to be really careful with how much money you put in them so you don't move the market. But if you want to invest in soybeans and bet on soybean scarcity and therefore price going up, you can do that very easily. You buy an ETF. If you want to bet on that for corn or for wheat, very easy. You can buy an ETF. And finally, you can invest in farms directly using platforms like Farm Together. Farm Together is kind of like, if you know, Fundrise, but for farms. They're the middleman between people like us that want to put some money into a farm and don't know any local farmers in order to be able to do that, and they match up the investors with the farms. Fantastic user interface, and they've got all sorts of offerings available. So now you know. I've been warning you for at least a year now. The rich people have been buying up farmland for a long time for a very good reason. It's because they knew scarcity was coming, and now it's coming. You might still have some... So now you know. I've been warning you for at least a year now. There's a reason why all the rich people started buying up the means of the production of the food a while ago, and it's because they knew there would be food scarcity, so might as well own that ahead of time. You can do the exact same thing. You still have time to prepare, even if you're already feeling the effects of the global food crisis. It's not here in full yet. You still have some time to prepare. Don't wait until it's too late. Make yourself robust against the downside. Get the fire insurance. If you never crack open that emergency food, guess what? That means you did great. You didn't waste money. You bought fire insurance. That means that you had food abundance if you never had to crack into those. You did well, but you might as well have them and not have to use them. That's a lot better than not having them if you ever need them. Next, invest in these things. Don't be the one man standing out, just being angry, standing and yelling and pointing at all the rich people who invested in these things beforehand. Follow along, ride the wave, hold on to their coattails. Big money makes big moves for big reasons, and so do the same things that they're doing and invest in the same things they're investing in. Of course, I've got affiliate links for everything I've mentioned linked in the description below, and as always, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.